This is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
You can put it on the board. Yes! Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP.TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, of course the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com, 702-799-9935. Give them a call and find out what's for dinner. Yes! And a big welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates, plus independents from coast to coast. Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, Oceanic, and WOW Cable affiliates, those participating, as well as Hotel TV in over 550,000 rooms from coast to coast. Big hello to our friends over on Facebook, on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Make sure you search for Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook and like, subscribe, follow, have fun with it. All right, folks. So baseball has taken some crazy turns in the last few years. In fact, ever since Rob Manfred has taken over as the commissioner, it seems like baseball, although it may be of the liking to some people, but many purists don't like it. The game has been tinkered with. The game has been scrutinized. The game has been focusing, better yet, the people have been focusing on more of the analytics instead of the actual game itself. In fact, they're busy on their cell phones at the game, checking in and looking at this and looking at that. Instead of looking at the game, then they're worried about getting out of there in time because, oh, hey, we've been here for too long. Whereas baseball was one of those timeless games that you go and you just stay there until it's over. There is no time for it. No time limit, that is. Unfortunately, the analytics have trickled down to alleged player performance. I can tell you as a former pitcher what I don't like are pitch counts. I don't want to see exit velocities and this and that. I don't want to see that I missed by a quarter of an inch off the black, etc., etc. I don't want to see that stuff. I want to see a pitcher face adversity. I want to see him get out of the adversity. Maybe he's pitching out of a jam because he gets better over time if you do that. Technically speaking, that's what happens. It's a confidence builder. But imagine you're in the middle of throwing a perfect game or even a no-hitter, which the only difference is the perfect game actually has no base runners versus a no-hitter could have base runners. Could be a walk or hit batsman or an error. Anyway, the reality is when you've got a pitcher that's pitching a no-hitter, you leave him in. Except if you're the Houston Trastros. Ah, yeah, those guys. Those guys that have been caught cheating in baseball, winning World Series that way, etc. Unfortunately, when you get sucked into analytics, you do the unthinkable. You pull a pitcher after 7 hitless innings in a bid for a historical second no-hitter of the season. That's what the Astros did, and that's what they do. And you wonder why they're playing below 500. So Ronel Blanco fell 2 innings short of Major League Baseball history. In fact, the Astros starters all shook their heads in disbelief. And Blanco himself pitched 7 no-hit innings against the Tigers to try to get his second no-hitter of the season. Of course, good old Joel Espinada, the manager of the Astros, then pulled him after 94 pitches. What? Yes, with the no-hitter intact. How the hell do you do that? I'll never know. So the Houston bullpen allowed 3 hits and a run, and the Astros went on to win 4-1. But how do you let this guy get 21 outs. You don't give him a chance to get the last 6 outs. I mean, technically, it could be 6 pitches away. And they say, well, he's had 100 pitches. Well, that could be 100 pitches. Remember, he had 94 pitches. Now, let's go ahead and take him out because we're going to save his arm for a rainy day or some garbage like that. This is the biggest crock of crap I've ever seen. Now, only 6 Major League pitchers have 2 no-hitters in one season, so this guy had a chance to etch his name into history. So Blanco pitched the first no-hitter of 2024 back on April 1st with a 10-0 win over the Blue Jays, and he did so after spending his first 2+ Major League seasons as a reliever. He threw 103 pitches, including 75 strikes in that no-hitter. Now, if that's the case, he only threw 94 pitches. They didn't even give him a chance to go 9 more pitches to match his no-hitter. This is what I'm really, really pissed off about. This makes no sense. In his first career outing with more than 6 innings pitched, that was that no-hitter. So, he had since been a regular Houston rotation and was 2 hitless innings, of course, away from becoming the 7th pitcher in Major League Baseball to throw 2 no-nos in one season. Nope, that's not going to happen. Nope, we can't let that happen. And we go back to John D. Vandermeer and Allie Reynolds and Virgil Trucks and Nolan Ryan and Roy Halladay and Max Scherzer are the only pitchers in Major League Baseball history to have those 2 no-hitters in a season. In fact, Scherzer remains as the last with no-hitters thrown against the Pittsburgh Pirates and New York Mets as a starter for the Washington Nationals back in 2015. Now, Blanco set the tone in the first with strikeouts of Matt Vierling and Riley Green to close out that inning. In fact, he was perfect through 4 2/3 before issuing 3 consecutive walks in the 5th. So there goes the perfect game. Anyway, he got out of the bases loaded jam by getting Zach McKinstry to end the inning in a fly ball. No big deal. He then helped his cause in the 6th with some glove work on a line drive back to the mound off Vierling's bat for the 2nd out of the inning. And of course, quick reflexes kept Blanco's no-hitter alive through 6 innings. In fact, we have a clip from Major League Baseball. We'll give them credit for this, and that's via X. And here we go.
Wow, out by Rennell. Just kind of looked at his glove and realized the out had already been made as he reacted quickly to that line drive.
So what happened was there was a quick shot right back. And see, this is a very interesting thing. When you look at mechanics for a pitcher, this is really important, folks. When you look at the mechanics and you say, okay, are the mechanics sound? Well, I can tell you right now, the kids today are not being taught sound mechanics. They're overthrowing with their body, and they're ending up after they throw the ball with their back turned to home plate. A lot of these pitchers are getting hit with comebackers, which technically after you throw the ball, your feet are essentially supposed to be shoulder width apart, and you should be in fielding position. And one of the greatest to do it in the game with, I think, 14 or 16 gold gloves was a guy by the name of Greg Maddux. Of course, Greg always gets a round of applause here on this show, despite the fact that he did pitch for the Cubs. But of course, the Cubs, what did they do? They gave him to the Atlanta Braves at the height of his career. And it's funny because Maddux goes back to Chicago to retire, which is really funny because that's where he started. But he had all his success really with the Atlanta Braves. Of course, we're on the Atlanta Braves radio network at Auburn, Alabama, 1230 a.m., WAUD. Of course, they always get a nice round of applause. But anyway, what I'm trying to say here, this guy by the name of Greg Maddux would put himself in position to field his position. Because really, there's 5 infielders that are out there facing the batter. The pitcher is one of them, not 4. Well, in this particular case, Ronald Blanco, he threw the ball, and he didn't overthrow the ball. He was still a little off balance after throwing it. But that comebacker was a line drive that ended up right in his glove. You could open your eyes now, Merry Christmas. But the reality is, that ball likely would have not been in his glove if he was not facing the batter in the first place. So mechanically, he's pretty sound. And I just looked at it a few more times. And yes, he did, again, he overstepped the rubber. And in fact, it was, looking at it right now, it was his right leg crossed over his left leg after he threw the ball. As a right-handed pitcher, you can imagine this. So he was a little bit off balance, but most pitchers are not being taught this. And so, unfortunately, this is a problem. Anyway, so back to Mr. Blanco. Now, he also induced a couple of ground balls and a flyout in the 7th, and Espinada had seen enough. How the hell is the manager going to see enough? What the hell does that mean? You got a guy that's in a rhythm. This guy is dealing. And if he's dealing, he's in a zone. Why don't they just leave the kids alone, let them throw what they throw? They're in a zone. It's not as if Espinada was out there throwing in the first place. He didn't know. He had no idea what Blanco actually had in the tank because he's not him. He would never know. So then, of course, it was reliever Ryan Presley took over for the 8th inning, and Josh Hader closed out the 9th. But why would you do that when you've got a guy throwing a no-hitter? This is ridiculous. And look, it was Hader. That was the one that allowed all the runs, or better yet, all the hits and whatnot, and the run for Detroit at the end of the day. And it wasn't even Blanco. So then you ask, well, why did the Astros pull him? Well, Espinada cited his pitch count for the season is a decision to pull him. That's ridiculous. Blanco had thrown 6 outings with 98 pitches or more. Who gives a damn? The guy's got a no-hitter going. He threw 103 pitches in his first one. And, of course, Espinada said to the Associated Press, quote, "Did I want him to be more efficient earlier and give him a shot? 100%, close quote." Shut up. This guy, this is ridiculous. And look, Blanco even told reporters that he realized that he wasn't going to be allowed to go the full 9, which is criminal just to think about. I mean, how embarrassing. And in fact, he even said, "I threw a lot of pitches and I wasn't going to be able to finish it, so I just accepted it." That's what Blanco told the reporters. How ridiculous is that? I mean, look, the guy's got an ERA of 2.43 for the season, and this guy knows how to pitch. And a big, big round of boos again for the Astros management. How awful. Let these kids get out there and finish what they started. Back here in a few on the Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this commercial right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC Sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChopsTops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to to your door without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out AMP TV if you're looking to produce or host your very own radio or television show, or even your own podcast. Of course, there's 3 million of those out there right now, and you could be one of those 3 million people, or you can actually be on regular radio or television, just like this program today. Contact info@aamp.tv or call 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for information on how to produce and distribute your own radio, television, or podcast show, and it doesn't matter what the content is. You could do it, and they can help you. Give AMP TV a call right now. Of course, a nice round of applause for AMP TV. Let's see if we can get the kung fu applause going here. Sometimes it works, folks, and sometimes it doesn't. And remember, there it goes. This is a live show, and you never know what the hell's going to happen. All right, a big welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates, plus independents from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome into our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM, WAUD over in Auburn, Alabama as well. That's home of the Atlanta Braves. Of course, they always get a nice round of applause because we can. And needless to say, we're going to give them the super applause. They get the extendo applause just because we can. All right, everybody else, on all your independents from coast to coast and television and Facebook as well, Chicago Food Favorites, thanks for joining us over there as well. Now, sticking with baseball, we talked about the last no-hit bid by Blanco that was blown up by his manager after 94 pitches, mind you. And then you look at the other side of this, say, all right, there's been a lot of tinkering in baseball. Why is that? Well, they wanted a faster game, then they wanted more action, they wanted more home runs, they wanted less defense and all this other crap. Why? Because they say, well, chicks dig the long ball. That's not the case necessarily. People do like defense too. They like pitching and defense. They want a good chess match out there. So what happened? Rob Manfred says, well, we're going to do away with the pitcher hitting. We're going to have a DH in both leagues on top of it. Of course, that always deserves a horrific chorus of boos. And honestly, the tinkering with the game just seems to never stop. And one of the worst ones, not the worst in my opinion, one of the worst tinkers of the game, let's just go ahead and make the bases a little bit bigger. And what's interesting about that is you look at the average play for a stolen base at second base. And the average play, literally it's a bang-bang play. The distance is right, the throw is right, everything is right, and it normally happens so damn quick. It's right there. It's right, the ball is right there. When the runner gets right there, that's the bang-bang play, whatever. Well, let's just add 6 inches onto that, 3 inches for each base being bigger. And then, oh, by the way, let's go ahead and change how many times a pitcher can go to a base. All right, so you can't keep throwing to first base to try to pick somebody off. Now they say on the third one, your third attempt, if you don't pick them off, they get to advance on a base. Well, for the sake of expediency in the game, that's a bunch of crap. Well, the problem is this. Stolen bases are up, which, stolen bases are exciting, but they shouldn't be up in a way where we have helped out the offense. Well, this is the case. Imagine a guy like Ricky Henderson, the stolen base king. Imagine Ricky having an extra 6 inches on his stolen and also having the ability to know the pitcher can't go any more than 3 times to the base, right? So Ricky probably would have stolen an extra 1,000 bases. Who knows? So why are we talking about this? Because the media is making a big deal about the Yankees stealing 9 bases in a game against the Boston Red Sox. Oh, and of course, we go way back to 1911. Way back to 1911, when the New York Highlanders had the most stolen bases by a team in a game, with 15 steals versus the St. Louis Browns way back on September 28th of 1911. Talking over 110 years ago. And we look at the stats. This is the interesting thing. So they had 15 stolen bases in 1911. So you had the Hoosiers getting 13 stolen bases in 1914. 1908, the Senators had 13. 1976, the Oakland A's had 12 stolen bases. Now, that's a big deal. That's 1976. 1916, the Cardinals had 11. The A's had 11 in 1912. The White Sox had 11 in 1909. The Phillies in 1906. The A's again in 1902 had 11. Then we jump all the way to the year 2000. First team of the 21st century was at that time was the Florida Marlins. On May 18th of 2000 had 10 stolen bases. And just 4 years before that, it was the Rockies that had 10 stolen bases. Then we jump all the way back into ancient times. We go back to 1917. The White Sox had 10. The Rebels had 10 in 1915. The Red Stockings had 10 in 1913, and so forth and so on. Then we go all the way to those that had 9 stolen bases. Well, the last 2 years has been done twice. Why? Because the rule's been changed. 9 and 9. Ellie De La Cruz and the Cincinnati Reds had 9 stolen bases on June 3rd of 2023, and of course we had the Red Sox. Actually over the Yankees. It wasn't the Yankees with 9 stolen bases. So the Red Sox with 9 stolen bases over the Yankees in that game. In fact, it was on June 16th of 2024. Why is it a big deal? Because you think of the bags being bigger and the pitcher going to second or going to the base where the runner is every time, right? We have a limitation. You can only go 3 times. Otherwise, why? Well, the batter goes that and gets what? A free base. Or better yet, not the batter, but the man on base gets a free base. So the problem is this. You go back and you taint all of these records. These records have been horribly tainted. Why? Because Rob Manfred decided to do what? Change the rules of baseball. Oh, yes. And guess what? It leads to bigger contracts and more TV contracts and more money. Better yet, it also says higher ticket prices, higher concession, higher parking. Look at the Major League Baseball television deal, and on we go. It's one dumpster fire after another. And frankly, it's disgusting. When you think about what has happened in baseball, the constant tinkering of it. And of course, my least favorite of all, which of course is what? Preceded with a chorus of boos, is the let's start extra innings with a man on second base as if they're playing Little League Baseball. That is the biggest crock of crap I have ever seen. It's an embarrassment to Major League Baseball. And conversely, if you look at what hockey has done, and look, I'm no fan of Gary Bettman, but I have to tell you, what hockey did when it came to overtime was kind of cool. They said, we've had a lot of games end in ties historically, right? It doesn't matter. I remember going to one game, and it was 5-0 late in the third. It was at the United Center in Chicago, and I watched the Blackhawks were getting their hats handed to them by the Detroit Red Wings, and then out of nowhere, in a very short time with very little time left on the clock, the Blackhawks rung up 5 goals to tie the game. Of course, that always gets a round of applause. Then they went to overtime, and the game ended in a tie, 5-5. So I can understand a little bit of that, because what a great game. And should it end in a tie? Probably. And probably the right thing happened there. So what hockey said was, we're not going to let these games end in a tie. We're going to let you play 3-on-3 for 5 minutes to see if we could settle this. And I love 3-on-3 hockey. It's like 3-on-3 basketball. It's great. And then if you can't settle it after 5 minutes, we're going to go to a shootout. I don't like the shootout. I think they should let the 3-on-3 go on for yet another period, or maybe for a period of 10 minutes. I don't know. Because somebody eventually will score because the teams get tired. You got line shifts, and usually that's the furthest from their benches. So something happens to make a goal happen in that situation. Baseball did it wrong. How do you put a guy on second base that's already in scoring position? So you get a bunt or a fielder's choice over to the right side. The runner goes from second to third. Then you get a ground ball somewhere over on the right side, and the runner can score from third, or a sac fly, or a pass ball, or a wild pitch. I don't like that because that's technically an unearned run. And so why should that count in baseball when you're basically giving an unearned run to the other team just for doing what? Just for making a couple of outs, if that. So I don't necessarily believe that baseball did it right, and I don't think that Rob Manfred is doing it right. Just as with he cranked up the baseball, had a live baseball. Oh, it's a live baseball. They don't want to say they juiced the ball. They say, oh, it's a live baseball. Well, the live baseball ran out of the yard at a rate of double the home run totals when they brought that ball in. Oh, well, now we got too many home runs. Let's go ahead and curtail it back. By the way, the same ball was used in AAA. And so let's go ahead and scale that back. Then they have half the home runs, which is really what they're supposed to have. And then they say, we don't really have enough home runs and the fans are losing interest. Let's go ahead and crank the ball back up. This is exactly what happened with baseball. So with this stolen basing, the reason I'm bringing this up is the tinkering of the game that is skewing the records. In the same way they say, well, Josh Gibson is the real hit king or whatever in baseball. No, he's not. Ty Cobb is. Ty Cobb had 11,000 at-bats versus the 2,000 at-bats that Josh Gibson had in the Negro League, which I'm sorry, but 11,000 bats is greater than 2,000 at-bats, and Ty Cobb hit 400. Josh Gibson didn't do what Ty Cobb did. So I'm sorry. End of day, Ty Cobb is the leader for batting in baseball. It's not Josh Gibson. Sorry, everybody that recognizes everything but the truth, but you can't CRT your way to the truth in this one because it is all about Ty Cobb and Major League Baseball, not just a portion thereof. All right, folks, we're going to be back in a few minutes. We're going to continue on and talk a little bit of hoops now. That's to deal with the same nonsensical BS. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus TheSportsCircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. Welcome back, that is, to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out TheSportsCircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, or recorded shows, which are podcasts that can be found on all podcast platforms, whether it's Amazon or Audible or, I don't know, what else do we have? We have Google, we have Spotify, Apple, oh, we can't forget Apple, and Pandora, and all the other ones, folks. They're everywhere. You can't get away from us. Also, make sure you check out the partners page at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great partners with us that have been with us since the very beginning, and one of those is the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right, nice round of applause for them. Yes! They've been with us since 2016. It's a long time, folks. All right, welcome back to everybody on TV and radio. All of our affiliates, television and radio and hotel TV as well, about 550,000 rooms in all Nielsen-rated markets. Thanks for joining us there, and also on Facebook on Chicago Food Favorites. Make sure you check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Like, subscribe, and follow. No, there's no fee, no nothing. It's just something fun. Post your favorite recipes and your favorite foods and your favorite experiences. Who knows? You might make some friends there too. All right. So how about this? In the last segment, mentioning a little bit about the Ty Cobb thing and so forth, we've got this ongoing issue, and I think the media is doing a great job of blowing this up because that's their job to do what? Sell advertising for their advertisers, all their sponsors, right? We all have sponsors. Well, guess what? So does all your other media outlets for the most part. And how about this one? Caitlin Clark scores 23 in Fever win over the Sky, and Angel Reese disputes the flagrant foul call. And she says, quote, I guess some people got a special whistle. Now, shut up. Just shut up already. This is stupid. So this is a media rivalry or whatever. It's really what it's come down to. Between a couple of players. They're trying to make the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson rivalry all over again. This is a bunch of crap. So the alleged rivalry that WNBA fans have been hoping to see between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese developed further in a recent game as the Fever defeated the Sky 91-83 in a fiercely contested matchup. Does the WNBA really have fiercely contested matchups? I don't know. Anyway, Clark scored 23 of 7 for 11 shooting from the floor, adding 8 rebounds and 9 assists, and she started off hot for the Fever, making her first 3 shots and scoring 7 points in the first quarter. That matched her entire scoring total from a previous win over the Atlanta Dream. Who? The Atlanta Dream. And then Angel Reese disagrees with a flagrant foul call. I love how the media does this. They put the facts of this flagrant foul way down the story. Right? This one is courtesy of Yahoo. So Reese was called for a flagrant foul upon reviewing after hitting Clark in the head on a drive to the basket. That contributed to the foul that made Reese virtually a non-factor in the second half. And of course, after the game, Reese took issue with the foul being called flagrant, saying it was a, quote, basketball play, close quote, in which he was trying to block Clark's shot. Of course, she said to reporters, quote, basketball play, I can't control the refs. They affect the game, obviously, a lot tonight, close quote. And so here we have, by Yahoo Sports, we have a audio clip from X. And let's listen in.
I believe to Angel Reese. Yep, across the head, and they will go to the monitor to review this one.
Yeah, that's right.
That is an absolute flagrant foul. So what happened was the right arm swiped. Angel Reese's right arm came across to block a shot. Okay, and I understand that. You say it's a basketball play. I get it. But when your hand is going up for the ball, when you blatantly, as I saw it, put your elbow into the head of the person shooting the ball. So Angel Reese is coming up from behind to block the shot, which is a normal play. But when you come up the backside of the person that is shooting the ball, now I'm watching it over and over here, it's clear what had happened here. And what they're not saying in this story is, wait a minute, how is it that an elbow and a forearm can smash somebody in the head and have that how is that not a flagrant foul? That makes no sense. I'm watching it over and over and over here, as they do on television when they show these, and it's obvious that Reese had as I see it, every intention, in my opinion, to injure Caitlin Clark. And this is the kind of dirty play that we've seemingly seen over and over in this situation from Reese, as I see it. Again, that's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. But it's dirty pool, dirty play, and it's all about the old bad boys with the Detroit Pistons style of play from the 1980s and early 90s. And that's the kind of garbage that, as I see it, Angel Reese is bringing to the table. I'm not saying she's not a good player. All I'm saying is it looks remarkably dirty. But what I'm really after here, and I've been covering this quite a bit, as the media reports on this, I mean, look, basketball is basketball, right? The sport is the sport, so be it. But what's going on is the liberal media is spinning a story to make it look like Clark is getting preferential treatment. Because why? Because she's scoring. Oh, she's scoring, and she's a good scorer, whether it's dribble drive to the basket or whether it's shooting an outside shot or a mid-range jumper. Well, what's happening here is the media is spinning the story, and they're putting way down in the story after you've read it for a minute or two or whatever the hell it is. Oh, by the way, these are the facts of what really happened. And then you'll see the headline say, well, it looked like Clark did something wrong and Clark did this and Clark did that. As if they don't want the Caucasian girl to be a leader in the WNBA in the first place. This is the crap that we're dealing with here. In the same way the golfing world seemingly didn't want to embrace Eldrick Woods, but you can call him Tiger Woods, for all the years when he seemed to have taken over the golfing world. Almost as if, no, we can't have that. We can't have somebody that doesn't look like we think that's what a leader should be in this particular sport. And this is a bunch of crap. You bleed red. It doesn't matter what color you are. You could be the leader of your sport. You could be the leader of your pack, the leader of your country. God forbid the clown that's in there right now. But my point is, when you think about the leadership in a sport, and frankly, people should be happy. The sponsors should be happy. Everybody should be happy that there is a little bit of diversity in the WNBA right now, instead of having a similar group or whatnot as the leadership in there. And it's nice to have new fans in the WNBA, because for years and years and years, for decades, in fact, the WNBA has suffered with very little following, very little television coverage, very little, even less media coverage when it came to stories, etc. It's been an embarrassment. So this is what it took. It took racial division to bring attention to the WNBA, because you got a Caucasian girl and you have a non-Caucasian girl that are allegedly battling it out between Chicago and Indiana or some crap like that. And this is what it has come down to. Look, we're all the same. We're all the same. Stop making this a race thing. It doesn't matter what color somebody is. If they could play, they could play. We see that in all sports. It doesn't matter whether it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, whatever. Even golf, right? We just mentioned golf. The race doesn't matter. Your background, your religion, that crap doesn't matter. Why? Because the cool thing about sports is it gives us, or it's supposed to give us, a separation of politics, religion, and everything else in life, right? So sports is the one thing that is supposed to be left alone. But the media just keeps hyping it over and over. This is all they've got. They say, well, since Caitlin Clark is our go-to for a story, let's just watch everything she does. Oh, and by the way, what about all the other great players that are in the WNBA? They're not getting any love because why? They're focusing on everything Caitlin Clark does because she's the new alleged poster girl for the league. But that actually diminishes the value of the balance of the league. What about all the other ladies in there that are playing and playing very well? And this is the problem that I have. So there's no balance in the league. I don't give a damn what color you are. If you're going to cover the league, cover it wholeheartedly. Don't cover it because you've got, this is the one person we know we can count on because we're going to get a rise out of people. And yeah, guess what? They're getting a rise out of me because I'm talking about it. But I'm talking about it because the media is not treating it fairly. Now, if they would do something called responsible reporting, now that would be something that I'd be interested in. But it's the way that they cover these stories is the reason that I'm going off on it because, folks, they're bringing the wrong kind of attention to the WNBA. In the same light, they say, well, LeBron James did this, LeBron James did that. Well, guess what? LeBron James, as I see it, yeah, he's a great player, but I don't think he is near the greatest players. I mean, he was never the best player on offense and defense at the same time, like Michael Jordan. Neither was Kobe Bryant. Sorry. Michael Jordan was the best of the best. It is what it is. So when you think about the best of the best in the WNBA, it could be any one of all those hundreds of players that they have. It's not Caitlin Clark. It's not this one. It's not that one. It's not Angel Reese. No, go find more stories, media, and report responsibly instead of using one or two people to sell advertising. Back in a few minutes, folks. We're going to switch into another sport that we don't talk about very much.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, again, make sure you check out TheSportsCircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, or recorded shows on all podcast platforms. And also, we go back to our partners. In fact, sorry about that. Our partners, a lot of them have been with us for a very long time. And, you know, we want to acknowledge our friends over at Al's Number One Italian Beef in Little Italy in Chicago, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago. If you've never had an Italian beef sandwich and you've always had those Philly cheesesteak sandwiches wondering what in the world is an Italian beef sandwich, I'll tell you what, folks, big difference between frying and cooking. When you fry, you make a Philly cheesesteak sandwich. You put some cheap grate of meat on a flat top and you put some onions and green peppers with it and some cheese whiz. You slap it onto a bun and then they hand it to you, and that's your Philly cheesesteak sandwich. However, if you're having an Italian beef sandwich, it takes about 20 odd hours just to prepare that top round or bottom round beef, which is cut finely to where you can actually see through it. It's translucent. It's wonderful. And of course, they let it soak in its own juices over time, and then they slap it onto a wonderful piece of French bread. And by the way, they put some nice sweet or hot peppers on there for you if you like that. Then they dunk the sandwich into its own juices, wrap it up, and I got to tell you, folks, it is the sandwich of sandwiches. And the difference between the Italian beef from Chicago and the Philadelphia cheesesteak sandwich, that Philly cheesesteak, it is night and day. Have them side by side, and you'll absolutely understand what I'm talking about. The inventor is Al's Number One Italian Beef way back in 1938. Actually, that's when they opened, but it was invented even far before that. End of day, folks. Check them out at alsbeef.com. You can get a history lesson. You can pick up your tub of Italian beef, a giant tub of it. They can FedEx it out to you. Boy, is it good. Or even go to goldbelly.com and just type in Al's Beef. Pick up your 5-pound tub from them, and it is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I highly recommend it. We don't get anything for saying this. We're just telling you about it because it's outstanding. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. And speaking of Midwestern things, a very big thing in the Midwest, something we don't really talk about much here on the Sports Circus, is bowling. Now, bowling's a really big deal, and it's predominantly super popular in the upper Midwest, throughout the Great Lakes area, right? A nice indoor sport during the cold winter months, but it is really a big deal. You know, recently I ran into a guy who was allegedly training or coaching, he says, coaching a young lady at a bowling center here in Las Vegas over at the Gold Coast Hotel and Casino. They've got about 66 lanes thereabouts over there. And we had finished, my buddy Colonel Bucky and I had just finished. Colonel Bucky is our former producer and longtime friend of the circus. All right, always Colonel Bucky gets a round of applause, and he's the one, as a matter of fact, whenever I say it's a circus and we prove it every day, he's the one that actually coined that phrase, of course, so we always have to give him some acknowledgement for that. So I'm watching this guy, Colonel Bucky's using the facilities, and I'm watching this guy allegedly instruct this young lady on how to throw a bowling ball. Now, my mother was a touring pro. My father was a big money bowler. I was a very good bowler. In fact, I bowled a 300 last July 9th. Yes, and that, of course, deserves an enormous round of applause. That's hard to throw 12 strikes in a row, folks. Let me tell you something. I've done it a few times on 11, but I've never thrown the 12th one until last year. But I'm a casual bowler. I'll go once every other month, thereabouts. So I'm watching this guy, and I grew up around the pros, like the old guys, Dick Weber, Carmi Salvino, all of those guys. And my instruction was outstanding as a kid, and I'm watching this guy tell this young lady to hold the ball with two hands. First of all, of course, that always deserves a chorus of boos. That's why you have finger holes, so you put your fingers on the damn ball. Anyway, so it's a European guy. And of course, here's me. I just can't keep my mouth shut. I'm watching from probably about 50 feet away, waiting for Colonel Bucky to come out of the men's room. And I said, you're training her wrong. Why are you teaching her to be off balance at the foul line? So basically where you throw your ball, the foul line. And this guy's trying to show her how to throw the ball with two hands. And of course I said, by the way, you have finger holes in that ball for a reason. If it was meant to not have finger holes, you wouldn't have finger holes in it in the first place, if you know what I mean. So he didn't like my input. And then after about 5 minutes, I was saying more things. It's like, no, you're doing it wrong, this and that and the other. Now, mind you, the father's there videotaping his daughter. Or not taping, but recording, right? Because we don't tape anything anymore. So he's recording his daughter from his cell phone. This guy doesn't know what he's doing outside of the fact from a bowling standpoint. That's why he's got this alleged coach. Well, what happens is this coach is getting her to essentially throw her back out at a very young age by throwing the ball with two hands. There are guys that have had success doing that. So be it. But when I'm watching this, the guy finally comes over, and now I'm standing right behind them. I'm like, what are you doing? He comes over and he goes, do you know who Kegel is? And all this other crap. And so he's a foreign guy. And I said, wait a minute. I don't care what's on your shirt. He goes, I'm a professional coach. I'm like, well, congratulations on being a professional coach. I grew up around pros my whole life. And you're trying to tell me that you're teaching them, that young lady over there, you're trying to tell me that you're teaching her the correct way to throw a bowling ball? What the hell is that supposed to mean? He goes, well, if you go back to the history, I'm like, I know what the history is. I don't need a history lesson here. I know you're going to hurt this young lady's back. And she's going to be in a real bad way down the road. And by the way, you're not teaching her how to play conditions. You're teaching her how to throw a ball in a constant condition that's going to make the ball basically hook out of the bowling alley, right? And you're going to leave a lot of bad splits. Anyway, and that's a whole nother discussion. But the point is, this guy tried to tell me that he was a professional coach. And he's being paid a lot of money to teach people how to throw a bowling ball in a way that's going to hurt their back. And yes, there are people that have had a lot of success throwing with two hands of a bowling ball. I'm not going to name them because I'm not going to give them any credit. The finger holes are in the bowling ball for a very, very good reason. So, that said, after watching this guy, I'm just shaking my head in complete disbelief and wondering, after he said, well, I'm teaching her how to throw this positive thing and this negative thing, and without getting into the details. I'm like, look, you're not teaching her how to play conditions. First of all, you're teaching her how to hurt herself. You're not teaching her anything about how to play conditions. You're not teaching her how to throw the ball straight when it comes to spare shooting, because you don't use a giant hook when you're throwing after a spare. So if you don't get a strike, well, the pin's left over. What is it? Well, you got to shoot. You got to knock the other pins down to get a spare, right? For all those that don't know anything about bowling. Well, reality is there are a lot of nuances in the game of bowling that you can control how much hook or lack thereof by how you position your hand with your fingers in the holes, whether you're tucking your pinky and moving your index finger in to cut down on the hook, or moving your index finger out to increase the hook, etc., provided you're throwing the ball properly, staying behind the ball and not carrying it like a suitcase. But the reality is, this is a science, and I've been doing this since I was 3 years old. And well, I'm more than 3 years old right now, if you know what I mean. But anyway, after being around it virtually my whole life, I'm watching somebody give the exact opposite instruction in the same way that we talked about tinkering in baseball with Rob Manfred. Bad input, bad tinkering with the game. And this is what we're watching largely on television these days, because you had one guy have a lot of success with this two-handed bowling thing. A lot of people have copied him. And what they haven't learned how to do is they haven't learned how to adjust in a way where they will leave less splits. Because look at it this way. If you're taking a set of 10 pins, and I can talk about this for the next week, you're taking a set of 10 pins and you have a giant hook on your ball. Yes, you're going to mix the pins up. They're going to fly everywhere. But if you don't hit it perfect, you're going to leave splits that you've never seen before, because the ball will cut right through the pins in ways that you couldn't even imagine. Mathematically, it could actually happen. Well, how can a ball go between pins? Well, geometrically, or I say physically, it cannot do it, because if you look at the geometry and you look at the trigonometry through it, you say, well, it can't happen. Yes, it actually can happen, just like in duck pin bowling, which are the miniature pins that they used to use way back in the day. And you basically use like a skeet ball to try to knock those pins down. So those two-handed bowlers, boy, it's really hit or miss with them. All the consistent bowlers historically, you even take the guy that has the most PBA titles, and that's Walter Ray Jr. Walter Ray Williams Jr. What did he do? He only set the record for the amount of wins in big tournaments, etc. And yes, he is one of the best of the best of the best historically. You know, you can go through all of these facts and figures on Google or DuckDuckGo or whatnot, and they'll give you, it's kind of cool. So you ask one question, and then it'll lead you to like 400 other questions that you may be thinking of, right? When you think of frequently asked questions. And so when we think about, well, is it better to put 3 fingers in versus 2 fingers in versus no fingers in a bowling ball? Well, there's a control factor by putting your fingers actually in the bowling ball in the first place. And so even if you're an amateur and you want to be, you want to win the most important tournament, which is essentially the USBC. And of course, that is the United States Bowling Congress. That's the big tournament. It's an amateur tournament. It's the largest event in the world. You want to be recognized as an amateur. That's the one that you win. And you say, well, wait a minute. Well, you know, I have the best bowlers in the history of bowling ever won that? Yes, in fact, a lot of them have. But I also ask, what is the hardest game to actually bowl? Here's a good bit of trivia. If you want to bedazzle somebody on this one. Well, there's 300 as a perfect score. Now, the only score in the history of bowling that has never been bowled or recorded, this is the most difficult bowling score to get, absolutely, is a 292, which can only be scored with the first 11 strikes, right? Then you got to get the 12th one, but not. But then you got to get a 2 count on the last ball, which getting a 2 count is very, very difficult. 3 is very common. That's when the ball's going to the end. You knock off those 3 on the end. But getting a 2 count is very difficult. Now, I saw one time, and I actually did this in duck pin bowling once. Believe it or not, because the pins are spread apart so widely. Those are the miniature pins like you see at the arcades every now and then, right, with the skeet ball. I actually threw the ball right down the middle. I took out the 1 pin and the 5 pin, and I got a 2 count. It's the only time I've ever got a 2 count that I can ever imagine in my life. But imagine getting 11 strikes in a row, then getting a 2 count. That is why a 292 has never been bowled or recorded as being bowled in the history of bowling. It's almost impossible. Anyway, folks, guess what? This content is almost impossible to go on with. So we're going to stop it right there. And the Sports Circus thanks you for joining us once again. And listen, we'll see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. So by the next time you listen to this show again, go out and bowl a 300 game. That's 12 strikes in a row. And we'll see you then. So long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517.